And we are live with another episode of Ask Lee video Q&A going live here at 5 on the Total Fitness Bodybuilding YouTube channel. Welcome. Glad to have you joining in. And as you're popping onto our live stream here today, please let me know if this is coming through loud and clear on your end and that you can hear me and see me okay. If that is the case, just type into the video chat or into the comment section that it is coming through loud and clear. And if you could do that, I would greatly appreciate it. Make sure that things are working fine. Seems to be going good on my end. Just want to make sure that it is coming through loud and clear on your end as well. All right. So this week has been an interesting week in the Total Fitness Bodybuilding community, especially over on the Total Fitness Bodybuilding Facebook group, because we were running the Lose Your Gut Challenge. And this past week, we've had a full interactive challenge. And for those of you who've probably been a part of the Lose Your Gut Challenge in the past, or maybe you were part of the Total Fitness Bodybuilding Facebook group, you got to experience that. And that was a great experience because we really dove into a step-by-step action plan on how you can optimize your nutrition to lose your gut, build lean muscle, and more importantly, how to sustain it and enjoy the process. So every day during that challenge, we covered live video coaching lessons, breaking down nutrition into bite-sized actionable chunks, and we had daily accountability tasks built into the challenge as well. So it's kind of like a 5-day virtual coaching program that we went through to really lay out the fundamentals. And we had the graduation workshop last night. So if you would like to check out the replays, because they're still posted up on the Total Fitness Bodybuilding Facebook group right now, and they will be there for the next little while because all those live videos will eventually get deleted. That's the way Facebook is now. They don't save live video recordings anymore. They all get deleted, but they're currently up there now. So if you would like to join us at the Total Fitness Bodybuilding Facebook group and follow along with the replays of that Lose Your Gut Challenge coaching program, they're up there right now, and you can join the group. There's a link to it actually down in the description below this video if you want to go check that out. All right, so a few people popping onto our live stream. Again, welcome to the Total Fitness Bodybuilding Live at 5 Q&A. I'm going to be hanging out here for the next hour, answering questions and topics of discussion related to fitness and nutrition, health and wellness. Any specific questions that you would like to discuss, you can feel free to type those into our chat window there, and I'll do the best that I can to help you out over the course of our video chat today. So if you do have any fat loss questions, feel free to type those in. If you do have any training related questions, you can type those in. And if you were part of our Lose Your Gut Challenge and you have any questions about that, feel free to type those into the chat window as well. All right, let's see. Who do we have joining in? We got Robert joining in saying it is coming through loud and clear today. Much appreciated, Robert. And he's a regular to our video chats. Let us see. Rodney has got a question here. Lee, what does it look like to program cardio the same way we program lifting, with structure, progression, and intent? All right, interesting question. All right, I'm going to dive into that one very shortly. All right, we got Lee Dunnigan joining in again. Lee's a regular to our chats as well. Thank you, Lee. Let me know coming through loud and clear. Much appreciated. All right, so programming cardio, you have to zoom out and look at the big picture and say, like, what is your main goal with cardio? And this is going to determine how you program. And this also applies with strength training as well. Like, how you program strength training or weight training depends on what your goal is with the strength training. And I'll give you some examples to kind of clarify this. But if you want to elaborate on this, Rodney, you can help me out. Help me help you, if you will. What is your goal? What is it you're trying to achieve with your cardio? Meaning, are you trying to do cardio from a fat burning point of view, just a general health and fitness, lose weight, get in shape? Are you training for something in particular? Maybe it's sports or athletics that you want to improve your cardiovascular conditioning for. Are you training for a marathon? Are you training for a triathlon? Are you training for a cycling race? Like, what is it what's the goal of the cardio? Because the goal of what you're actually trying to achieve is going to determine how you program it. Now, for the average person who's just looking to lose weight, get in shape, and be healthy. Like that's 90% of the people you see at the gym, that's probably what they're there for. Like I even notice this when I'm chatting to people, through the Total Fitness Bodybuilding Facebook group and places where we have that two-way conversation, chatting back and forth. Most people don't have a specific goal. And that can actually hinder your progress, because if you don't know what you're trying to achieve, then you don't really have any structure or purpose, and it's just kind of floundering around. It's just like, I go to the gym because it's good for you. Right? Like, well, what are you trying to achieve? Oh, I just want to be healthy. I just want to get in shape. Right? Don't want to die of a heart attack. Okay. I mean, I can respect that, but you need to kind of like set your standards, or the benchmark a bit higher than just showing up for the sake of showing up. I mean, that's like going to your job and the boss says, okay, we don't have any goals for you. There's no sales objectives. There's no business objectives. Just show up and do a good job. Like it's very vague. Like, how do you just measure show up and do a good job? you need to have some specific targets to strive for, right? Because if you don't have any goal, then you're not going to make progress towards that. So we need to know the purpose here. And when it comes to strength training, like you could have strength training in order to compete in a bodybuilding competition. Like that's what I did for years. My main goal of going to the gym and lifting weights was to build muscle, to achieve hypertrophy, to compete in a bodybuilding competition. That was the main objective. For a while, I was doing powerlifting. Like I competed in powerlifting back in the early 2000s, and that was my main objective. And the training that is involved with powerlifting and strength sports is totally different than the training that's involved with bodybuilding and hypertrophy gains. I mean, you're still lifting weights, you're still going to the gym. I mean, there's that kind of similarities, but how you go about your training, how you structure it, how you program it, your objective is totally different, right? It's almost like trying to compare basketball and soccer and saying, well, you have two teams, you've got a ball. It's the same thing, isn't it? Well, not exactly. Right? The rules of the sport are different. The objectives of the sport are different. The tactics are different. Just because you have two teams and a ball doesn't mean it's the same thing. So that's like bodybuilding and powerlifting. Okay. You go to a gym and you're lifting barbells and dumbbells. It's the same thing, right? Not necessarily. The objectives are different, and how you go about structuring it is different. Now, when it comes to the cardio, same thing. If you're just looking for general fitness, you can probably just get away with it. As long as you're doing something consistently, you're going to reap some sort of benefit. But if you're trying to train for a specific goal, let's say you want to do a marathon, well, then you need to start building up your work capacity and build up your durability to handle that long duration training. If you're going to be doing some other types of athletic racing, meaning like maybe you want to run a 5K, maybe you want to do track sprinting or something like that, or maybe you want to get in shape for, I don't know, like a long distance hike or some sort of bigger event like that, where it's a longer duration, then you need to train accordingly. So how you program it really depends on the ultimate objective. Now, in my situation, I do a lot of cycling. Like I've competed in cycling races now, and I've actually posted up some videos on Facebook, even posted up some videos on YouTube as well, some of the different cycling events that I've done. And the way that I like to structure my training for cycling is I use what's known as a polarized training model, where the majority of my cycling workouts are lower intensity, longer duration. It's kind of in what we refer to as zone 1 to zone 2 intensity, which is the endurance range, where you're pacing yourself, but you can keep it up for a long duration. So that would be the lower intensity. And then about 20% of my training is done at higher intensity, where I'm really pushing it either in the form of intervals or some high intensity work, whether that is actually a race. And a lot of times I've been doing a lot of races this summer. My high intensity training days happen to be race days, whether it's a time trial race or it's actual like a road race or something like that, where you're kind of going max effort for that duration. Sometimes it's actual structured interval training. But the way we like to structure it with polarized is 80% of the time you're building a base. You're doing low intensity foundation building. 20% of the time you're really pushing high intensity, you're doing the high intensity intervals, you're pushing it's hard. And having that contrast is a very good complementary mix, because that base building that you're doing with the low intensity work, that's like laying the foundation of the pyramid, if you will. Like that builds a big solid base and just increases your cardiovascular conditioning, your work capacity, your durability. And then when you incorporate those high intensity sessions sporadically, like you can't do too many high intensity sessions or you're going to burn yourself out, but you incorporate them strategically and in the right amount, that can help to raise that ceiling so that you can increase the intensity and the power output that you can produce, but you need to do so in a structured fashion. Just give me a second, guys. I got a phone call coming here. All right. Where was I? I lost my train of thought there. All right. So yeah, I was just talking about the polarized training with how I structure my cardio. But again, how you go about structuring yours is going to depend on your specific goals. So if you're still tuning in there, Rodney, feel free to chime in and let me know what it is you're training, and I might be able to give you some more specific guidelines on your situation. We've got Roshan joining in. Welcome. Glad to have you joining into the video chat. We've got Eagle Eye John joining in. Says, Lee, does the flat bench chest press target all the chest, lower, middle, upper? Please pray. All right. Yes, it does. Anytime you do a chest press / bench press, you're engaging the entire chest, right? Now, I know people say, well, an incline bench angle is going to work more of the upper chest. A decline bench angle is going to work more of the lower chest. Flat is going to work more of the overall chest. But anytime you do a chest press, you're engaging all the chest. Like all the fibers and all the chest is contracting in order to do that. It's not like, oh, I'm only contracting the lower chest and the upper chest is relaxing, or I'm only contracting the lower and the middle of the chest is relaxing. It's all contracting. And when you look at any exercise in general, like all your muscles are contracting to some degree or another. There's really no such thing as a true isolation exercise. I mean, even if you're doing like a barbell curl for your biceps, it's not just the biceps. I mean, obviously you have to grip the barbell, so that engages the forearms. You've got the supporting muscles throughout the body. You got your core, everything from your ankles, your legs, your core, your lower back, glutes. I mean, everything is engaged, even your spinal rectors, your upper back. Like it all has to come into play like as stabilizing and supporting muscles. So there's really no true isolation exercise, but you can like target exercises to specifically work certain areas. And again, when it comes to the bench press and the chest press, the entire chest is working. Now, if you find that certain areas are lagging behind, like maybe you do want to put a bit more emphasis on the upper chest, then you can do some incline bench work to place more emphasis on the upper chest, but you're still contracting the entire chest, right? Like all those fibers are still firing. So that's why there's sometimes a bit of confusion around it, but you have to realize it's always contracting. Like prime example too, like you look at when you're training your legs, like anytime you do like a squat or a leg press or something like that, you're hitting your quads, you're hitting your hamstrings, you're hitting your glutes, like you're hitting inner and outer thighs, like you're hitting it all. But you can then specifically manipulate the exercise to place more emphasis on certain areas over the other. So like with the leg press, for example, if you place your feet higher and wider on the foot plate, it tends to place more emphasis on the hamstrings and the glutes. If you place your feet lower and narrower on the foot plate, it tends to place more emphasis on the quadriceps, but the entire leg is still contracting regardless. Same applies with the chest, right? Like the entire chest is contracting regardless, but depending on how you angle the exercise, you can place a little more emphasis on certain areas than others. See what else we got there. Neil's joining in. Neil's a regular to our video chats. Says, what are your thoughts on doing heavy lateral raises with very clear momentum versus light weights and controlled reps and max tension? Which would be optimal for both strength and hypertrophy? I would rather do them in a more controlled fashion with higher reps, more time under tension, and not just swinging heavy weight for the sake of heavy weight. Now, with that being said, swinging heavy weight can still produce results. Right. But it's from a bodybuilding point of view, a hypertrophy point of view, I would rather use moderate weight and good controlled form and really feeling that muscular contraction, getting that mind muscle connection and focusing on more time under tension. That's what I would prefer to do. But at the same time, I have seen some people get great results using the heavy explosive style of training. The only thing you have to weigh out the pros and cons here, like anytime you use loose form and heavy weight and momentum, there is a greater risk of injury. There's a greater risk of pulling, tearing, hurting something, right? Especially if you've been prone to injuries in the past, if you've had any shoulder injuries in the past, you're really opening up the doors for re-aggravating those injuries if you're using heavy weights and just like heaving and swinging that weight up versus if you used a more controlled movement and muscling it up and you being in control of the weight the entire time. Right? So, again, I'm not anti one or the other. I mean, I've seen it work both ways, and I've seen people get great results. Like prime example, I mean, if anybody's watched like the old Pumping Iron movie and just seen some old footage of some of the old bodybuilders, I mean, even throughout like the 80s and 90s and some of the old school bodybuilders and stuff, and even bodybuilders today, some of these guys use shitty form, right? They're swinging, they're heaving, they're powering up. Like you go watch some of Ronnie Coleman's videos, like he's not doing slow and controlled rows and stuff like that. Like he's using explosiveness and power, and I mean, arguably built one of the best physiques in the world. But look at him now. I mean, he's been through the meat grinder, right? He's suffering and paying the price for that kind of training. So you got to look at the big picture. Like, are you trying to just maximize gains in the short term, or do you want to be around and have the longevity over the long term? Right? At this stage of the game, for me, I'm more concerned about the longevity. Right? I couldn't care less about trying to impress anybody in the gym with how much weight I'm lifting or heaving and swinging or whatever. I want to be around a long time, and I don't want to get injured. That's priority number one for me. Now, I know some people might say, don't be a pussy, man up, lift heavy weight, whatever. If that's your attitude, hey, be my guest, go for it. I'm quite content, focusing on me at this stage of the game and staying injury free and enjoying the process without beating myself up any more than I have to. So, that's my thoughts, right? Take it for what it's worth. We got Lee joining in saying, what would be a safe amount of electrolytes to take a day? I have a manual job working outside. It's very hot here in the UK at the moment, and I currently take about 10 grams a day with 3 liters of water. All right. What specifically are you taking? Are you mean like you have some sort of electrolyte packet? Like you can get these packets of powder or even buy containers of electrolyte powder that you mix in with your water? I'm assuming that's probably what you're referring to. Could be wrong. I don't know. But as far as a safe amount, it really depends on how much you're sweating, how much you're losing. And it's not always an exact number across the board. Like we all have different sweat rates, and we all have different rates at which we excrete electrolytes, like sodium. You can actually get these tests where they test the salt concentration of your sweat. I think Gatorade actually had one. Like I've seen videos of different companies had these, but I'm just going to do a quick search here now and just see, because I did see salt test. I think it is. Let me just sweat patch. Okay, know how you sweat. I think they have them in stock. I'm probably actually going to get some of these because they seem to be, I think they have them back in stock. When I checked last, they weren't. Anyway, just let me, I'm just going to share my screen here because this is helpful. All right, I would recommend you do this. Anybody who's sweating a lot, you're concerned about your electrolytes and staying hydrated and all this kind of stuff, I would recommend checking this out. So just give me a second. I'm going to share this. Now, for full transparency, I have not used this myself, but I've seen it and I want to try it out. All right. It's a Gatorade sweat patch. So what it is, it's a patch you put on your skin and it can test the sodium concentration in your sweat. And then you can, use whatever formula they have. I mean, in this case, they've got an app here where you can plug it in there and it will measure how much sodium you sweat per unit of water. So then you can say, like, okay, if I lose, a pound of water through sweating, this is how much sodium is in that pound of water. And then you can replenish the electrolytes accordingly. So you can kind of gauge it. And we all have different sweat rates, right? This is something that's unique to everybody. So some people are high salt sweaters and some people are low salt sweaters and everything in between. And one way you can kind of gauge how much sodium you sweat is if you wear like a black t-shirt, for example, and you sweat and then you can see the white salt stains on that black t-shirt, you're probably a high salt sweater. I am. Like when I work out, like if I have a black t-shirt on and I go to the gym and I sweat, I mean, I sweat a lot. So like when I'm at the gym working out or when I'm out cycling or whatever, like the water's just running off me. Like my shirt will be soaked with sweat. I mean, I just am a big sweater. Some people are, some people aren't. I mean, but I do sweat a lot. And then if I'm wearing like a black or dark colored shirt, and once that dries, like you can literally see the white salt stains in that shirt. So I know that I have a high salt rate. And that's why I wanted to actually get it tested and measured using one of these sweat patches. I mean, there are different companies out there that make them, but this is one that I just seen online through, again, Gatorade carries them. So I'm probably going to order one after this and, just check it out and see how that works. And then I can actually give you feedback about it. And then you can, of course, replenish your electrolytes accordingly. Right. And that's a good tool to have. So instead of just kind of haphazard and guessing how much electrolytes you need and how much you should take in, you can actually have a bit more precision with it and know this is how much I sweat based on how much fluid I'm losing, or how much sodium in that I'm losing based on how much sweat I'm losing. So that's a good tool to use. And again, that's why I can't really give you a specific, because it varies from person to person. Right. But the general rule of thumb is you want to consume enough. So like if you feel like you're cramping, if you feel like you weakness, you feel lightheaded, sometimes that could not only be low blood sugar, it could literally be low electrolytes as well. So you want to make sure that you keep that stuff topped up. The big thing is, as long as you're drinking adequate fluids to utilize the electrolytes, your body will absorb what it needs and flush out the rest. Right. So that's the key thing here. Let's see what else we got there. Andy's joining in. Andy's one of our Muscle After 40 VIP members, and he also went through our Lose Your Gut Challenge. Thank you for participating and sharing. Quite inspirational for sure. Anyway, he says, Lee, down 89 pounds. That is huge, right? He started his fat loss journey at 300 pounds, now down to 211. So 89 pounds down. Says, I notice a lot of skin hanging off me, especially when doing push-ups. If I add more core workouts, would this help me? All right. Not necessarily. Now, I'm not saying don't train your core or anything like that, but when you have loose skin, just simply doing more workouts, training is not necessarily going to tighten that skin. The number one thing you want to focus on is, first off, keeping that weight off, because your body has a bit of elasticity to the skin. So when you lose weight initially, there's probably going to be some loose skin there. If you can keep that weight off, which you will, right? We've got a solid action plan in place, and that's the goal. We're going to keep that weight off. Your skin will naturally tighten up a bit over time. Now, the thing is, the older you get, the less responsive that skin tightening may be. And if somebody was really overweight, it may even be harder to tighten that loose skin. And in some cases, you can't. Like if you've ever seen obese people who've lost a lot of weight, especially when you're talking like 100+ pounds or more, you see just the loose skin. Yeah, it will tighten up to a degree, but it may not ever go back to quote unquote normal. In those extreme situations, you kind of have to do an evaluation and see what do you want to do about this? Like, is this problematic? And if it is, you may want to look into your options as far as getting that skin surgically removed. That's not an easy decision. Like, that's a major decision, right? Because obviously you have to go under the knife, you got to get that skin removed. There's a long recovery process, there's potential for complications there. Like, it's not something to take lightly. But I know some people who have done it because it was a big issue and they wanted to get that taken care of. Right? They had the skin removed, and it also they can remove some excess body fat along with that. But most people, they can live with a little bit of loose skin. And like, I have some loose skin. I mean, it's not major, but especially when I've died it down, and like when I did my last bodybuilding show, when I made the comeback in the masters category back in 2021, I really noticed the loose skin, and I actually made a video on YouTube talking about that, and I shared it. So like, if I could hold my posture up high and everything else, I could kind of hide it. But if I crunched over, like, you could see the loose skin, especially around the lower ab area. I mean, that's loose skin is there. And several of the guys in our VIP coaching program have talked about this. When they relax, especially when they sit down or they lean forward, like, that's when the skin gets slack and you can actually see that loose skin. But then when you stand up and you straighten out your torso and everything else, and it kind of elongates and stretches the skin out, you don't really notice it as much. But when you hunch forward or lean over, you got that skin where you can just grab it and it's a bit saggy. So you really got to kind of just decide how big of a deal is this. And I heard a different school of thought on this one. One of the guys I was actually helping, this a few years ago, he had lost a lot of weight, and he did have some loose skin, and quite significant loose skin. Like, I mean, he could literally like grab it and flap it a little bit, if you know what I mean. Like, there was like a fold of loose skin around his lower abdominal, lower back area. Like, it was all that spare tire, right, that we carry around. It was like a flap of skin there. And he decided just to leave it. And he actually viewed that almost like a badge of honor. That was kind of like a reminder of the progress that he made. And he said, of course, it's not the most attractive or whatever. Now, when you're wearing clothes and in normal situations, like, nobody's going to see it. Nobody's going to notice it. I mean, very few people are going around, with their clothes off and exposing their loose skin. So, I mean, from a practical point of view, hardly anybody's ever going to see this. But he did notice it. Like, obviously, when he sees himself when he's getting changed or getting in the shower or whatever, he can see that. And he just said, you know what, I don't want to do anything about it. Because, again, that's a reminder of how far I've came with my fat loss journey. And he actually just reframed it. Instead of looking at it as a blemish or something to be embarrassed about, he actually looked at it something to be proud of. Because once upon a time, that wasn't loose skin. That was all filled up with fat, and he was just a big fat slob of like a Pillsbury Doughboy. Now he's lean and trim. Yes, he's got a bit of loose skin, but he's much healthier. He's much stronger, fitter, healthier, more athletic, and he looks at it in a positive light. So sometimes you just kind of have to reframe how we look at stuff like that. But if you do keep the weight off, it may tighten up a bit on its own naturally. But again, depending on the degree of weight loss and the degree of elasticity in your skin, it may never go back to true normal. Right? And that's just the way it is. So again, if you get to the point where you want to decide on getting it removed, I mean, we could certainly discuss that in more detail, but just want to kind of give you a big picture perspective on it right here. What else we got there? We have Juju. I think that's how I pronounce it. It says, Lee, must be nearly 20 years since I first watched your videos. I've lost 30 pounds in 11 weeks, partly thanks to your tips. Any advice for tight calves and hamstrings beyond the usual stuff? All right, tight calves and hamstrings. Well, I'd like you to, if you're here, you can elaborate on that, because there's a lot of things you can do. One, simply taking your weight training exercises through a full range of motion will help to improve your mobility, flexibility, so there's things like that. Obviously, stretching makes a big difference. And honestly, a lot of guys don't stretch enough. And very, very few people stretch enough. It's one of those things like with the typical gym bro, like weight training's priority. Cardio's like, cardio sucks. I don't like it, but I do a little bit of it. And then stretching is even below cardio. It's like, blah, like that's the bottom of the bottom of the list of priorities. Like, no, I'm not doing any stretching. Screw that. So you want to kind of make sure that you incorporate some stretching. And what I like to do is after every strength training workout, I take a few minutes to stretch out the muscles that I just trained. And that makes a huge difference. It aids with recovery. It helps to improve the blood flow and circulation. It helps to increase that mobility, helps to reduce injury. I mean, there's a lot of benefits to it. And it can also help aid with hypertrophy. Stretching the muscles is another form of stimulating them and helping to aid with the growth. Now, if you have some specific tight areas, you might want to incorporate some mobility work before the workout, especially if you find like that is an issue, like you find your hamstrings and your calves are tight, so maybe it hinders your leg workouts. You might want to do some deep knee bends and some mobility work, things like Cossack squats or things, where you're really going through that full range of motion, like the hurdler stretch and different things like that to help open up the hamstrings, open up the calves. That might help with your mobility during your leg workouts. And you can also, if it's really tight, do some extra work at home outside the gym. Like there's so many tutorials now on YouTube for stretching, yoga, mobility. I mean, if you just go in there and start doing a search, you will find oodles and oodles of videos. Like I've got some videos up there on my website, stretching videos and mobility videos. I mean, you can go open up the Total Fitness Bodybuilding YouTube channel, check out the playlist tab for stretching. There's a few in there. I've got one for tight hips. I've got one for leg stretches and things like that you may find helpful. But there's a lot of other like yoga tutorials and things like that, which can be a great help. And this can serve as like some additional training. So it's not hardcore training, it's not like, the weight training workouts, but it's stuff that you can do as a supplementary addition to your workouts and things that you can do at home outside the gym. But a little bit goes a long way here. And the thing that you really want to focus on whenever you're trying to improve flexibility and mobility is a little bit frequently. So like I would never recommend someone to go in and do like an hour-long stretching session, once or twice a week. I would much rather see you do like 5 minutes a day versus then go and blast out like a half hour or an hour in a single session and then not do any more for another week. Little short frequent bursts is way better. That's where you're going to, it's almost like greasing the groove, if you will. And that's where you're going to get the most benefit and the least amount of pain and discomfort, right? Little tiny incremental doses done frequently. That's the best way to improve the flexibility and mobility. All right, what else we got there? Andy is saying, saw the video. I don't think I would consider surgery yet, maybe in a few years. Thanks for addressing my question. You're welcome. Yeah, I mean, and this is something like, say, when we're having our coaching calls, we can elaborate on this a bit more as the time comes. I mean, there's still body fat to be lost yet. I know you've lost 89 pounds, and that deserves a pat on the back and a big thumbs up. But let's be honest, there's still fat left to lose. I mean, you can easily get down to sub 200 pounds before we even need to even be thinking or considering, how to deal with the loose skin, or if you're going to deal with the loose skin. Get the fat off first. That's the most important thing. Get that off and just improve your health, strength, and athletic performance along the way. Once you get yourself to the point where you're down into in the low teen body fats, like 15% or less body fat, then we can consider options, advanced options, if you will. Who else we got joining in? We have D Holcomb 1979. Just started taking creatine. How many times a day should I take creatine? If you just started, start with 1 serving a day, 5 grams a day, and just do that for the first month and see how your body tolerates it. I know nowadays, if you start searching for creatine, there's all kinds of different opinions. Like a lot of people are saying, "Oh, we should take more creatine because it has benefits besides just the muscle building benefits. It has mental and cognitive benefits, and more is better." That's kind of like the general consensus when you watch a lot of creatine videos. But the problem, if you've never taken it before, we don't know how your body tolerates it, and it could cause stomach issues, and we just don't want that, cramping and upset stomach and things like that. So start off small, let your body adapt to it. So 5 grams a day, plenty. And personally, like, that's what I do. I mean, I've been taking 5 grams of creatine a day since since creatine came out back in the early 90s. I mean, I remember when creatine first hit the market back in the early 90s, and it was, all the rage in the muscle magazines and stuff like that. And it was crazy expensive. I mean, we talk about the cost of inflation and stuff like that, but when creatine first hit the market, it was astronomically expensive. And I remember my first jar of creatine that I bought was 100 grams. So it was only this little tiny bottle, like just 100-gram serving, or not 100-gram serving, 100-gram bottle, and it cost $100. Literally, it was $1 a gram for creatine. So to put that in perspective, that's like you going out and buying your 1,000-gram container of creatine now and spending $1,000 on it. Like that, people think creatine and supplements are expensive now. You have no freaking idea. Like, stuff like this used to be astronomically expensive. And now, because there's so many supplement companies and there's such a big demand for it, the prices have gone down big time. But I remember as in my late teens, breaking open the piggy bank, scrounging up money because, I wanted to try creatine. And I literally spent $100 on 100 grams of creatine. And I mean, I could feel the difference. I really could. Like, I could feel the difference. Now, maybe there was a bit of placebo effect going on in there as well, because I was like, shit, I just spent $100 on this stuff. It better damn well work. So there might have been a bit of that going on. But I've been using creatine like literally since the early 90s. And that's what I've been doing, is 5 grams a day. And that's enough to saturate your body with creatine and reap the benefits. Like, you don't need to overload it like with the extreme amounts. The idea is you want to take a little bit consistently and just have it in your system so that your body can reap the benefits. And the cool thing about creatine is it's not a timed supplement. Like, it doesn't matter if you take it morning, noon, or night, if you take it before a workout or after a workout. What matters is that it's in your system and you have it in there consistently. It's almost like taking your vitamins. Like, it doesn't matter if you take your vitamins in the morning or you take them in the afternoon or in the evening. As long as you take them consistently and you maintain adequate levels of vitamins in your system so that your body has them when it needs it and can utilize them. It's not like a pre-workout, for example, or caffeine, where you have to time it when you need it. Like, there's no point in taking a pre-workout supplement after your workout is over, right? Like, I just went in the gym and I trained my ass off, and now when I go home, I'm going to slam back a high caffeine pre-workout and get all wired and jacked and sit on the couch. Like, it's pointless. You want to have the caffeine in your system before you work out so that you can actually reap the benefits of it. Creatine's not like that. Creatine is not a time supplement. Like, you don't feel it when you consume it. It's in your body. Your body utilizes it, and it helps to volumize the cells. It helps to generate ATP, which is that high power energy system that we use when you're doing explosive, high intensity activity. And it also helps to pull water and nutrients into the cells to create that cell volumization. But again, it's not a time supplement, and it's something that you don't need to take in high amounts. It's better to take smaller amounts more frequently. So I would start with 5 grams a day. Do that for the first month. See how your body responds. If you have no stomach issues or anything like that, maybe try increasing it. Maybe try 5 grams in the morning and then 5 grams in the evening, and just see how that works. And see where you can tolerate it. And from a practical point of view, even if you wanted to go on the aggressive side with creatine, I really don't think there's any point in going beyond 10 grams a day. Like, that's more than I use personally, but I don't think there's really any point to that, unless for some reason it was prescribed by your doctor that you needed it for some reason. But the average person, 5 grams a day is plenty. If you wanted to go really aggressive, 5 grams twice a day, and then that will give you the results that creatine has to offer, right? You don't need to overthink it any more than that. But be interesting to see how it works. But don't start off with too much too soon, because the biggest complaint that people have with creatine is it causes stomach upset, might cause like gas or bloating or diarrhea or something along those lines. And it's usually because you're taking too much too soon and your body's not used to it. So start off small and build it up over time gradually. Okay, this is a follow-up to the cardio question we had earlier. Said, thanks, Lee. For my cardio, I'm at a point and age in my life, 41, where I want to balance cardio and strength training equally. My younger self would only prioritize strength training. I've always loved cardio, but the cardio online fear-mongering influenced me negatively. It wasn't until I found your videos that I found my passion again for cardio, i.e. walking, tennis, etc. Well, cool. Okay. Now, you just mentioned something specific there, tennis. That's a different style of cardio because, yes, it is cardio, but it's stop, go, and it's an athletic sport, right? So it's not the same as running or cycling or swimming or something that you're doing repetitively, in kind of like a rhythm. It's tennis is very, like stop, go, technical. So that's a different style of cardio. And the idea of polarized training, as I mentioned earlier, could actually serve well. So playing the tennis, I mean, the best way to get better at tennis is to play tennis, right? You're not necessarily going to improve your tennis game by trying to mimic tennis through other forms. Right. Playing the game of tennis is the best way to improve the technical side and even the conditioning side for tennis. But how you can supplement that is with those longer duration sessions. So long walks. If you like doing cardio machines at the gym, you can take advantage of that as well. Just building up that work capacity. Right? If you like cycling or swimming or other forms, I mean, you can certainly incorporate that as well. But one thing that I want to address that you touched on there, where was it there? Yeah, the fear mongering, the online fear mongering, where you get all these fitness influencers saying, "Oh, don't do cardio, you're going to lose muscle," and that is such a crock of shit. It really is. And if anybody is familiar with extreme endurance athletes, like you see the common thing in the online world where they'll have like an ultra distance marathon runner and a sprinter, and they'll have like some muscular jack sprinter and some skinny marathon runner, and saying, look, sprinting causes you to build muscle, marathon running causes you to lose muscle. There's so much more to that than just the surface. First off, the person who is an elite level sprinter, genetically, they have more muscle, more fast twitch muscle fibers, and they're built for sprinting. That's why they're an elite level sprinter. The same when it comes to the marathon runner, like someone who's an elite level marathon runner, like they genetically have a body that's built for that. But then you can take it to another level, because a lot of these long distance endurance athletes, not only are they do they naturally have a low body weight and a lean, slender frame, but a lot of times they're even purposely in a calorie deficit and trying to get even lighter. Especially the old school guys, it's kind of changed a little bit in modern days because we're realizing the power of sports nutrition and actually nourishing the body versus just depleting it. But a lot of the old school guys, where a lot of this online fear mongering came about from, they would purposely be in a calorie deficit, be doing hours upon hours of cardio, and try and lose weight so they were improving their supposedly pound to weight or their power to weight ratio. Like in the world of cycling, you would see guys like do like 100-mile rides and try and fuel that on like an apple. Like or try and do like 100-mile ride fasted or some crazy things like that, where they were just depleting themselves and purposely losing weight, purposely losing even lean muscle, just to try and get their weight down so that they would be more lighter when it comes to climbing and more efficient. Because obviously the lighter you are, the more efficient your body is, the less you have to exert from a power exertion point of view. But then now with nutrition's kind of caught up with things, people realize when you're in that calorie depleted state, you can't exert max power. So yeah, you might be lighter, but you've also lowered your power, right? So it's almost like in the world of auto racing. Yeah, we can lighten up the car to try and improve the power to weight ratio. But if you lighten the car and you also lower the horsepower, well, are you actually coming out further ahead, right? Sometimes you'd be better off just increasing the horsepower versus lightening up the car. So the power to weight ratio is not always in your favor, and this is something we're seeing more and more in the world of athletics: is the power of nutrition and actually fueling the activity, not just trying to deprive and deplete. And when you look in the world of endurance sports like triathlon and cycling and even like marathons and stuff like that, I mean, we're seeing people crushing numbers that have never been crushed before. And a good reason for part of that is the fueling strategies. People are actually nourishing the body on the cellular level, and with pre-workout, intra-workout nutrition, maximizing, the electrolyte balance that we were talking about earlier, all these kind of advanced nutrition strategies, so that you're fueling the machine and you're not running on empty or depriving or running into electrolyte imbalances and cramping up. This is where things have really taken off to the next level. But yeah, so I mean, I just want to clarify that when the whole idea of people losing muscle from cardio, if you're fueling your body properly, you're eating adequate protein, and you're also including strength training, you're not going to lose muscle. And to kind of prove my point, look at every professional bodybuilder. They're all doing cardio when it comes to pre-contest as a fat burning tool, right? I mean, you go watch any like Ronnie Coleman's old videos. Like, he used to be using the Stairmaster for like an hour a day or more, right? To burn off body fat and, to get ultra shredded. And you see a lot of guys, doing cardio, whether it's outside walking, whether it's at the gym doing cardio machines or whatever. Like, they all did cardio, or most of them do. I mean, of course, there's a few exceptions, but the vast majority of competitive bodybuilders, even Olympians, are doing cardio, and they're the most muscular human beings in the world. So this whole idea, oh, don't do cardio because it's going to cause you to lose muscle, like, it's blown out of proportion. It really is. All right, where else are we? I lost my place in the chat there. All right, Lee, you just started using Zwift. Any tips for building leg endurance for cycling? Ride your bike. All right. The old phrase that the great Eddie Merckx used to have, right? People used to, he was one of the goats of cycling, Eddie Merckx. If anyone follows cycling, you know who he is. And if not, then Google search him. But he would dominated cycling back in the day, right? He was kind of, I guess, the equivalent of Arnold Schwarzenegger in bodybuilding, right? Kind of like that. And a lot of people used to ask Eddie, how do you get better at riding your bike? How are you dominating? And he used to say, ride your bike, ride your bike, ride your bike. That was his answer. And there's a lot of truth to that. The people who ride their bike the most get better at cycling. So if you want to get good at something, you got to put in the hours. You got to put in the time. And that there's a big carryover. I mean, if once you get beyond that initial base, of building up the stamina and the conditioning, then you can get into more strategic training routines where you're alternating, low intensity volume phases, high intensity intervals, and focusing on different aspects. But the simple answer, just get the hours in. If you get yourself up to doing 10 hours a week on the bike, your strength, stamina, conditioning, endurance is going to increase exponentially. And I know some people might say that that's a lot, but in the world of cycling, 10 hours a week is quite modest. I mean, sure, it's a lot by average people standards, but I mean, when you're looking at elite caliber cyclists, they're doing way the hell more than that. And even myself, especially in the summertime when I tend to prioritize cycling, I'm averaging 10 to 15 hours a week is a typical summer cycling schedule for me. So if you want to get better, if you work up to getting your weekly hours up to around 10 hours per week, and you will see your stamina and endurance improve dramatically. Now, build up to that slowly. Like if you're currently only doing like an hour once or twice a week now, then don't go from like 1 to 2 hours a week to 10 hours. Like, build it up incrementally. Like, add an hour a week until you're up to 10 hours a week, and just try and build it up in a progressive overload fashion. But that's the key right there. I mean, we don't really need to make it any more complicated than that. Just get the volume, get the consistency in there, and that will naturally help. And a good way to get that volume up is with the lower intensity base building, right? Use that as the foundation. And of course, if you're using Zwift, I mean, occasionally on those days when you have extra gas in the tank, you're feeling strong, maybe try one of their workouts, right? I mean, they have several different workout options, or maybe try doing a race or some aggressive group rides. Like there's a lot of variety. Like I use Zwift myself, and I love it. I mean, it's so much variety and cool stuff that they have available, from the structured group rides, the races, the interval workouts, stuff like that. You know, just put in the time, and you'll see your stamina and conditioning improve. I think we had the same question there. Creatine, how many days? I think I already covered that one. Yeah. Who else we got there? Hi, all. Hello. Welcome to the chat. Let's see. Creatine, the best supplement of all time. It's certainly a good one. It's probably the one has more research and study and trials done behind it than virtually any other supplement. I mean, I don't know if we want to consider it the best, but it's certainly up there, right? It's kind of hard to classify what is truly the best when there's so many different categories. Let's see what else we got there. Everybody, give the stream a like. Yeah, please do. I would appreciate the support, right? I know we got several people joining in here now, and we only got a couple likes there on the page. If you're getting any value from this and you enjoy it, hey, smash the thumbs up button. Give it a like. Give it a heart. Give it a whatever. If you're watching on YouTube, it'll be a thumbs up, right? If you're watching on Facebook, you can give it a thumbs up or a heart, your preference, but would much appreciate it. All right. Any other questions? I think this may be all the questions that came through on my end. Unless there's anyone has another question, feel free to chime in there. And if not, I'll get ready and clue this up. I have no problem doing a shorter chat. And one thing, again, I just want to mention, I mentioned this at the beginning of our video chats. We just finished off the Lose Your Gut Challenge over on the Total Fitness Bodybuilding Facebook group. And I know a lot of people participated, but probably a lot more didn't check it out or didn't sign up for the challenge. And we currently have the video coaching replays are still available over on the Total Fitness Bodybuilding Facebook group. If you would like to follow along with the Lose Your Gut Challenge, you can kind of do it on your own, because every day throughout the challenge, we had a live video coaching lesson. We had some accountability tasks throughout there. And then at the end, we did a big workshop where we basically took all those live video coaching lessons and put it all together into a step-by-step action plan. And the replays of that is all up there now on the Total Fitness Bodybuilding Facebook group for the short term. I mean, they're not going to stay there long, because the way Facebook is now is they don't store live video replays for, I think it's 30 days, and then they delete them. So they'll be up there on the page for the next, well, we're already weekend, so the next few weeks they'll be there. So if anyone would like to follow along with the Lose Your Gut Challenge, you can do so on your own by catching the replays. And all you have to do is head on over to the Total Fitness Bodybuilding Facebook group. And again, the link's down in the description below this video. Request to join the group. And once you're in there, then up in the top featured tab on the group is a list of all those videos. So you can literally scroll through the featured tab and start with day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5, along with the graduation workshop. Everything's outlined there for you. And this would really be a good, masterclass in terms of optimizing nutrition for fat loss, health, and wellness, and sustaining your results long-term while enjoying the process. So again, it's 5 days of virtual coaching there and laying out a solid action plan that you can follow. So if you want to check that out, it's over there on the Total Fitness Bodybuilding Facebook group. Totally free 5-day Lose Your Gut Challenge. The replay is available. All right, folks, I'm going to get ready and clue this up. Hopefully you got some value from today's video chat. I certainly enjoyed doing it, and look forward to chatting with you next week. Same time, same place. In the meantime, have yourself a fantastic weekend, and we'll talk soon. Take care. Over and out.